So welcome to the Unregulated Leadership Podcast. This is a live recording that we do a residency this is our second time. We didn't do it last time.
Every time.
Well, it will be, because I'm speaking it into the existence. Every time we will have a segment and we will do live recordings.
Yeah.
We're still gonna have lights, cameras, we're gonna have the tripods, right? Right now we're using the owl, so thank you. But we're gonna have right?
I didn't even know
But I think the light, I want us to have those, you know how they have those big chairs? You know, like, we're gonna have those. So this is being recorded, so when it actually happens, you'll be like, she did think that one day, right? And so, it's gonna be great. And we're just gonna have to find a storage in Boston, because I don't live here. Yeah, maybe they'll have a place here one day, anyway.
But she's great. She traveled yesterday and she's like very preppy. What weddings? She's great. And courage.
Gorgeous too.
Oh,
Maybe after all of this stuff, well. How can you be in all of my spaces? Because then it's forever.
this is just.
I just feel like I'm to pay you all the time, which I.
I do like to volunteer my time. I do believe it's important to give back, right? You can't just always take. And so if you invite me, I'll show up and just smile. Check in and be like, okay, I gotta go.
And make sure you wear one of your shirts.
I will. Oh, yeah. So, yes. So it says, ask me how I know.
Actually, we need to show like that.
We do. Listen, we're gonna brand the entire thing. This is my branding, right? This is unregulated leadership branding. This is mine. So it says, ask me how I know, Dr. Lavonya Douglas, because I think a lot of times we have our own experiences, and I speak from experience. I speak from the places that I've been, the experiences that I have, positive and negative, right? Because they're not always great. And so when you speak from a place of your experience, you of other people. So when I say, ask me how I know, if I don't know, I'm gonna refer you to somebody that knows. But if I know, listen, it's story time. I have a story, let me get my microphone, because it's about to be.
Yeah, with the mic.
Here. I'm getting a smart microphone, the logo on it.
It's in production.
It's in production. Come on, that's what start saying. It's in production, because it really is. She's not here yet.
Every time I think about it.
And so Meredith is doing her practicum with Unregulated Leadership semester.
Yeah.
So she has found guests for these 3 segments. And so I'm gonna let her introduce the first guest, and then we'll get started with questions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for being present and.
How about you?
So thank you so much for being present and supporting this podcast. This afternoon, we have not only a very strong lady, she's also at William James with the program, the OLP program first, Organizational Leadership Program. And she is also a mother and a military. So this is Maritza Alberti. Thank you so much for coming. So she was able to accept our invitation, and the discussion will be about hybrid leaders.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Myrna, come have a seat.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna just let you guys have a dialogue. Okay? Do you want the printer?
I'm
good.
So, thank you so much, Marisol, for being present today. You know, you are on Unregulated Leadership. This is a program, this is a podcast that Dr. Douglas, in partnership with William James, are sponsoring. So we are in residency, and what a great time to just discuss about. I think really this topic is dear to your heart. So I'm not sure if you want to introduce something else, if something that I forgot to talk about you that had to say. So if you want to add anything before we started it, you're more welcome to do so.
Well, thank you for having me here, Meredith. Helping me into it.
Exactly. This is not an interview. This is a conversation. Okay. I'm glad that you're here. So the audience is welcome to participate. This is not an interview. This is really a conversation, right? Evidently, you know, I'm thinking that because I reached out to you, you were so kind to say, okay, well, whatever, I will do anything for you. And I was like, I'm supporting. So she's there supporting, but all of you guys, you're more than welcome to ask questions. It's a debate. Let's just bring our sparkling curiosity side on, okay? So the first questions, not formal. Tell us a little bit about your interest for an hybrid leader. What does that mean?
So I am not a hybrid leader. I'm full-time military. And I am actually doing my practicum with Virgin Distance. And her whole experience, 25 plus years of experience, has been in hybrid and remote. And that's where I got my interest in hybrid leadership. So I didn't realize how important it is now. After COVID, like even prior to COVID, after COVID, it became like a big thing, like a lot of organizations were hybrid. And a lot of leaders don't know how to lead individuals that are not present and are like remotely or hybrid. So looking into what Virgin Distance has seen over 25 years in remote and what used to be telecommute, and seeing how COVID has affected a lot of leaders and assuming that role. For example, Tim Cook, Apple's CEO, he had trouble with huge resistance from his employees coming into hybrid after COVID. Like they were remote, they didn't want to come back and work in the office hybrid. So how did he manage that? And I'm actually writing a paper on that right now. How did he maneuver for that? The resistance still there. Like they created this huge union and they all came together, wrote a letter to the CEOs why we don't want to go back into the office. We performed good in the working remotely. We perform even better. And there's a lot of organizations that are like a lot of employees that are performing a lot like phenomenal from home. And he just couldn't accept the idea because he felt like he didn't have that collaboration and that culture anymore and didn't have that connection. So that's where my
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate that you just, it's like you really keep my feelings when you talk about your company. But before we go further, I would like to acknowledge some people that we have here. Also, Dr. Elma, she's our host. I'm not sure if you want to say something.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Erica Highland. Hello. I didn't know fan. I don't like everything. This is a very poignant topic, and I'm happy to be part of it. I think we're in a hybrid blended world now, so
That's true.
really no one can escape blendedness of it anyway. So.
And we have Dr. Bell right there, sitting casually. Alright. We have also Miss Eloby. We have Elijah Wright. We have Kathleen, my dear friend. We have a new friend. I'm not sure who's a new friend, a dear friend. I think just keep calling. It's a conversation. So thank you so much. Let's be focused now. We're gonna get serious. So again, so I'm curious about your company because you said that it has been there for 24 years.
And why? It's not my company, I'm actually interning.
You're interning?
I'm doing my practical for that,
Oh, wow.
which Amber did too.
Mhm. So what they're doing exactly?
Right now, I'm actually working at a part of what she did prior. She did the first phase of digital isolation and loneliness pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Then we have an intern that did during COVID and now I'm doing post-COVID. What are the effects of digital isolation and loneliness and hybrid and remote workers?
Yeah. Do you feel like, because you say that it was resisting a little bit about it, right?
That's what with Apple, with the company Apple, the employees had resistance going back to work. One for transportation, right? It's expensive.
Yeah.
And this is in California, where Apple's at, so transportation is very expensive. So they felt like I'm spending so much money getting to work, and I could do everything I'm doing in the office, I could do it at home. And also the flexibility. A lot of employees are arguing the flexibility of being at home. Like you go set your own schedule instead. And another thing is like introverts and extroverts. That also plays a factor. Some people work better just alone in a quiet. Like me, I like to have people. I get the energy from people. Like being alone, I don't like when I work from home. I don't feel like I perform the same. But I don't look the same.
Yeah.
But I don't look the same.
So because I may go in the leadership program, right? So one day probably you're already on unregulated leader, I would say, because there are a lot of things, there's a lot of things going on in your life that you're implementing, right? So how do you see that this company manage to, at least to just ease employees because they have transportation problems. Some of them didn't want to accommodate, some of them were resistant, some was like that. We just can't stay, we just can't go back to. What did they do to accommodate at least? Or did they have a certain response to
So
employees?
the way that Tim Cook took it was probably not the right way, at least I don't think. He basically said, if you don't go hybrid, then go find another job.
Wow.
And my argument is that you should have adapted more like adapted leadership style in that situation and adapt to what's going on now and look more of the what's working and what's not. Are they performing just as well at home? Look at the data, look at the numbers. And I think something that he kind of found, he lost the AI engineer that's a great engineer and he quit. Like, I'm just not gonna, he started checking who come into work, like clocking in. And I'm not sure if it was all him, or if it was the people advising him and his team. But I think that was the hybrid leader and leader in the office should have maybe adapted to the leadership.
So thank you so much for sharing that. This is your experience, right, with the hybrid work that you are doing. But let's talk about a little bit in general. Or because how do you define hybrid? How do you say, like on your own lens? Or what will you say if you think about hybrid leadership? How does this look like for you?
Being talking like someone that could be like traditional but modern,
Like the
kind of
skills.
be like a traditional leader, but also like a modern that's adapting to the changes and also like flexible. And communication is a huge thing because you have to communicate remotely and hybrid and in person and adaptable.
Yeah, because I can relate to that because what you're saying is like, okay, probably there was some difficulty or challenges for this company and probably they need the time to even look at it, to see the challenge or to just communicate with the employees or even like to just consider, it's just like a memo that, okay, no, if you don't want it, just you can just like, it's like leave it or take it or leave it. So what are the skills? Because we are living in a world that hybrid, work is real. I think we will never go back to the same, the same. So we need to consider that. So for a leader to consider hybrid work, what do you think that leader might implement or learn from or display?
I think a big one is it would be like trust. You gotta trust that your employees are gonna perform at home. Like you have to trust them. You can't assume that only because they're not showing online their little green or whatever it may be on their little chat groups that they're not working. You cannot assume that. It's even in the office. Sometimes you're working, writing, or whether you're reading or moving around, doing something. You're not actively on a computer.
But what if they're not doing work?
That's a good, tell us more.
I mean, like, yes, trust is a beautiful thing, and like, that is my preferred operating mode of trusting that people are doing the work, but I think there are times then when you learn afterwards that maybe the work didn't get done. Maybe they weren't doing it. And that's kind of like, now did this happen for a whole other reason, or did it factor in because you were at home? That's hard to say, but I think more so just like, how do you trust that if some aren't good at self-managing their time, or they might not be more productive at home? They might like actually be more genuinely productive in the office. They find that way. But then how do you really know?
Okay.
Measuring the numbers.
What do you think?
Yes.
First of all, motivation, I believe, plays a big part. And you have to take it, I believe, on a case-by-case basis. One size does not fit all. And that if there's anything that COVID has taught us, or this program in general, is one size does not fit all.
Or even most.
And so, motivation is a big part of it and, develop where the person is developmentally.
Yeah.
While doing the work is very important. And I say this because I currently work with children, with teenagers. And COVID did a number on our kids. And so I'm finding a rise in a lot of young people who say that, I don't like people. They have social phobia. Exactly. Things like this. And so if the young people are saying this, what about the adults? Who are working, some of them feel exactly the same way. And they don't want to say it. Now, working hybrid may work for some, but for those who do have some social issues and that they need to be with other people, working hybrid may not work for them. So those are some of the issues that I see that come up that may be an issue. And it could be that it does work for them in certain aspects, but that's.
So, but when you think about like leading a company or being responsible to just have some production going on. For example, in my company, I'm working hybrid. I'm so grateful that I have 2 days that I can work from home.
It works for you.
It works for
And
me.
that's for everyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as a leader, you need to take that into consideration. And I agree with you, Marisol, when you said that he took a more of a dictator, approach in saying that. And sometimes as a leader, depending, you gotta read the room, when you have to do that, but there could have been a survey, who wants to, who doesn't want
Yes.
to?
Right.
Before making that informed
Or maybe you didn't
decision.
want to
Yeah.
wander around.
Yeah.
Right?
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's pause a little bit on that.
Oh, so
Getting into something very important. I think hear from other people, right? So
Yeah.
if you like this company, because we can take that, it's not about like talking about this company in per se, but do you think as a leader, it will be probably something that we may consider when we are thinking of implementing change, right? Because it's a big change. Do you think like, getting feedback, a survey, checking it? So if it's not done, do you think there's a chance that you could implement something like that or suggesting?
No, well, my suggestion when I was writing the paper, I like do a survey, who wants to come in, who does it, and not just that, in performance. Like Erica said, some people just might not be performing at home, and it's true. It's true, like, so, because it doesn't work for them.
But this is so true, Dr. Ellen, because we had that discussion in group meetings with my it seems for them that we are less productive when we're working from home. And from home is different. We can just get up and get a coffee, refresh something. You have more time. But if you are reliable, as Kathleen said, if you are conscious about like doing your work, you will work. And I don't know if they lost control, if it's like the thought about losing control because you're not there. They don't control you. So what is it? Is it about like losing control?
I'm gonna answer you. Well, Laura, had her hand up. And then I'm gonna answer.
Okay.
I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. I had 2 points that I wanted to address was, one is behavior that we can pay attention to. So in data, I wonder if because we're speaking of Apple, right? And so it's like, did he say, I could save more money? If I don't now have to open up a building and provide, and provide the needed services, whether it's heat, light, to the peak water, to the employees coming in. So who was he thinking of? Because we can say it was a selfish move with him, right?
Yeah.
But then we have to think of one, the person, his behavior and how he addressed things. And then the second one was, you just asked the question, Martin, and I.
About like probably about like on the productivity.
Oh, okay, so it's, behavior, right? So we can change the place, do we change who we are? Right? Because it's almost like when someone tells you who they are,
You
don't expect, don't expect to change, right?
Yes.
So if you notice in the first, you give them 90 days, you see that's what y'all do, right? Okay, all right, I'm gonna change, I promise. Do we stick on their word or do we pay attention to now the behavior?
Right.
This speaks to what I was about to say.
Okay.
First of all, in the beginning, when it was COVID, there was no way. One of the things that I wanted to point out was it was uncharted territory when COVID happened. So everybody had to figure it out on the spot and on the job. But now that it's a very hybrid, is a very real thing.
Yeah.
Companies have figured out how to monitor if people are working. And I'll give you an example. I have a relative who actually works for Homeland Security, and I went to visit with him not too long ago, and he has his office all set up in his house because he works from home. And so I was making fun of him, and I was just like, so you just napping on the couch over here and wait until you get a ding? And he goes, they're looking to see. He goes, no, I have to be actually working. They can, if there's a lag, they're gonna, yeah.
Mouse activity.
Exactly. They're watching.
Yeah.
And I said, really? He goes, yeah, they're monitoring everything. And so I believe that other companies have that kind of software and information in place to monitor the behavior.
Yes.
Okay.
Even through your camera, eye tracking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to just point out that one thing that a leadership team could do is take a look at, use the data for what it is. Take a look at the data to see who's actually being more productive working from home, working independently, working on independent projects, and who is actually more of that people person and who could work in that capacity and just put them where they're best suited. For example, they may not know that they would be more productive working independent.
But here's the thing though, is all of it is think about what we're comparing it to. So when we're talking about performance, more productive or less productive, it's kind of operating off of this delusion that before COVID and in the workplace, people were 100% productive.
Right, you're gonna carry it to the.
People thought wasted time, stole time, did whatever.
Well, that's what I was saying, the behavior. It's you don't change, right?
No, the delusion that they were fully productive.
You change with punishment.
I would take it a step further. Right? I want to go a bit further. Because you mentioned motivation earlier, right?
Yes.
And so when you hire someone to work in a position that they're passionate about, that they are connected to, that they would do for free.
Yeah.
You're not worrying about their productivity.
Yeah.
They're so excited to do the work that they're going to do. So I don't want to hire anybody that's coming to this position for a job. I think this to be if I ask you a question at midnight and you can't wait to answer my question. And so it's not about this 9 to 5 that we have created in this world. Oh, no, find a job that you're passionate about, that you love to do, that you would do if nobody asked you to do it, that you would find more work to do because you loved it so much. Those are the jobs that that's what we need to be talking about. We have to be playing that,
Yeah.
But that's what we need to be preaching.
Yeah.
And these conversations, while they might happen, we just recognize you don't fit in. This is not the place for you because you're not passionate about what we do. So let's have a conversation about what you really want. Because we need to get you there. Because this is not the place for you because you're not productive here.
Right.
Because you're not passionate about the work that we're doing.
And that's what systems are having issues with because a lot of young people are not staying because they know that they can do this.
Okay, so before we go further, we have Dr. Dalan and then we have Laura. And then I would like to acknowledge my daughter, Eileen. And she came, thank you, Eileen. Yeah. Welcome to just jump in because she's an hybrid worker. And I'm working. I was like, about that, and I would like after them.
Yeah.
I would share with us experience working hybrid, and are you able to manage that as a young person? Okay, so we're gonna go with Dr. Good time. Okay, Dr. Belen, and then you're gonna go with Laura. Yeah.
We love them all.
So one of the things that does happen with hybrid leaders too is that it's actually more work to have a hybrid workforce.
Yeah.
It's more work for your company. There's more communication that you need. And so there can really be like a high burnout rate, not just for the people who are working, but also for the leader. And some leaders say no to hybrid working because they don't know how to change their interaction and the way that they work. And so there were a lot of people in high-powered positions in a lot of companies that now have gone back to no hybrid working.
No, go back to what we were comfortable with.
Right, or have gone to either all remote or all in person, because it's the hybrid that actually makes it more complicated.
Yeah. Well, because
Yeah.
hybrid, you have to manage people that are virtual and in
Yes.
person. So
Yes.
like that means you have two arenas
Yeah.
to work
Correct.
all the time.
Two different leadership.
Think about the very
Yes.
cognitive research,
Yes.
task switching, that's what's very hard to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
See, that's what I was gonna touch on, was the leadership person themselves and how much weight they have to take on, because I have to be able to manage the behaviors here
yes.
and the in person that I see,
Mm,
which is the
yes.
physical, right?
Different data.
I have to-
Yeah.
Yes, I have to pay attention to this body language, no matter what mood they're in.
Mhm.
I can assess it in a professional manner, and I have to take care of this one.
But no body language over there.
Right.
Recode.
And these two, are they working, aren't they working? Why are your numbers higher than hers? How is it she's able to and you're not? And then the complaints when it's the team from the high.
Yes,
So
yes.
that's what I.
So many layers.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So I'm gonna go with this question, probably Eileen, feel free to jump in if you want. So really some potential about, either benefit or challenges of hybrid leadership models, right? We talked about there's probably a lack of control from the employer, but let's talk about the challenges and the benefits, because I'm pretty sure that there might be some benefits for both employers and employees. Do you want to share anything about your experience in working hybrid?
Sure. It might not answer your question directly, but I've had 2 full-time roles in the past 2 years, and they have both been hybrid. I worked at Moderna last year, and it went from full-time hybrid, full-time remote, and they moved to a hybrid. And that was very interesting to see. It was maybe 3-4 months in, and they're like, everybody needs to be in the office 75% of the time. And I think going from fully remote to hybrid for me, I'll speak to my personal experience, it was definitely hard because it was, the office was an hour away, an hour and a half depending on traffic. So it was like my work now, like I was like commuting as part of my hours. It wasn't really, but that's how I felt because now you're asking me to go into the office. So this is time where I'm sitting in traffic and I could be at home. For me, it does take a hit because after traffic, I'm just like exhausted and now I have to go and I have to socialize with these people and work with personalities that I hadn't before. So I think that adjustment was difficult, and I don't think leadership and management took that into account, because for them, it was just like, well, we want people in the office, but they didn't necessarily see the impact that had. With that being said, I do enjoy hybrid. I think it's nice to see people in real life, but knowing that it's not required to do my job. But for those projects that are a lot more collaborative, and it is nice to like just have that face-to-face rather than trying to work on Teams or trying to work via Slack or chat or whatever it may be. It is nice to just have a body and have that personalized experience.
Okay, but let me ask you more a little bit.
Before you
Oh,
ask, can I ask you a question? When you first took the position, and it was fully remote, was that your I guess like your reasoning for taking the position because you thought, you thought I can do this for however many years until I finish this, and I don't have to worry about it. And then when
Like a commute? What?
yeah,
Yeah.
so now here's the commute part. But did you ever take into consideration when you applied, when you got the position that this might change one day?
Yeah, so it wasn't my primary reason for taking the role. And I think they did at the beginning hint that like we would be asked to come into the office more, but for my role specifically, it was like with the understanding that it might be like on a monthly basis for bigger team meetings or like roundtables or things like that. So when it went from once a month to 3 times a week, then I was like, okay, this is very different. Especially like my role, I was a project manager. I was like, I don't need to be here to have a lot of these discussions. And I spoke to my manager and she was, I think, understanding, like, she was like, you don't need to, don't be here. But
What was the distance?
it was from Brockton to Cambridge, so it wasn't even, it was like very, yeah. With traffic in that area specifically, sometimes it was like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I was just like, this is a lot.
And
It's even more frustrating.
Yeah.
Going shorter distance.
and then financially, was it a benefit for you to keep the position with the gas prices? Because now we're thinking economy,
Right.
the salary, the gas prices, and then poverty.
It definitely wasn't something I calculated. And parking in that area is crazy. So I think I started to drive and with my contract, I had thought parking was covered. And so I was like, I spoke with my manager and she's like, yeah, just do it. It will reimburse you. And maybe like a month later, I was like, okay, like here are all my tickets, please reimburse me. And she's like, actually, we can't do that. So then I started taking the train because I was like, this is just not viable. And I was like, this is like a conversation that I felt like you had reassured, but it was verbal, right? It was
Verbal,
like,
right.
Yeah, so it couldn't be like, actually, you said this. So I do think that is something to take into account because then the train is a whole other thing.
Yeah.
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 Let me ask you this,
Interesting.
two things before we jump into other people to share. Do you think that on your side, you feel like it was like more demanding? But what about if you could think about like the employer side? What do you think they were pushing for more in-person workers?
Yeah, and I did ask that question, and it was really interesting because to them it was that more in person, like you can turn to your neighbor and kind of be like, hey, and like work with those more organic ideas. And I think that was their hope. But I also learned that there was a financial incentive, I think, too, because they're paying for all the space. I think they're building a new building. Actually, it's supposed to go up in a couple of years. So it was like, well, we can't justify this new real estate.
Can I ask questions?
And also, I think the economy in the area, all the places you go for lunch, all the places you might go.
For every workplace, is that factored into it?
Yeah, thank you so much. Your daughter, you have to say something?
Oh,
No, it was Lola or someone else?
Oh, that was, I think it was me.
It was you, Catherine?
You brought up a very good point. I mean, about you were working from home, and then that's a different mindset when you have to go into the office, because you are in the mindset of, okay, there's a level of comfort when you're in your own space. And then now you gotta put on, you know, that mask, per se, and you gotta be on. You know what I mean? With everyone in every sense of the word.
If you're a leader, especially.
Especially if you're a leader, and so, it can be exhausting, and I realized that when, I was working hybrid, in the school system. And so you have to bring, a different part of yourself when you're in person that you don't realize that. It does, yeah. So thank you for that.
You also have to like learn to manage you,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like what and how do I do it? Because again, driving in, right? So I know when I'm getting ready to face, I turn off, I love hip hop, turn it off and put on Joe Olsen. I have to change, right? And so on the train, the bus, whatever, when it's public transportation that commute is like, how do I turn this off?
Mm,
Right?
Yeah.
And now I'm walking into this.
Right.
Yeah.
Even with your headphones on,
Okay,
because
like-
now you have to be visually alert.
Still there, your brain
Around
works.
the fact that you could never, yes, you could never take a break from,
Yeah.
to gather you to what you're getting ready to walk into. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say how headphones. And I think to your point, there were days, right, when I was working from I would wake up, still in bed, you grab it. And I felt like I was still productive, and I knew like if I had a meeting or something, I would get ready, obviously, but it was different from going straight to work to then having to pick it up, and having to leave, knowing that I'm going to have to say hi to 10 people and like have those little chit chats. And think about that every time I go into the office. So I think it's funny because, yeah, like you said, like what I listen to, it changes because I think for me, I don't know, maybe it's not the best in terms of socializing, but I think I do like take a minute when I go into the office and I have my headphones in. I say hi to everybody, but I go like get a coffee like by myself to just like decompress and go and like be social. Because it is very exhausting.
It's normal.
Yeah.
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 But I even feel
We're
like
gonna
here,
switch.
I even feel like here, I'm sorry, Martha. When we come in and then they say, we're gonna do a check-in, and it's like, I'm just trying to finish,
Yeah.
getting out the car, coming in, seeing these faces.
Hopefully,
Yeah,
tracking can
like-
be used for that, like, in the bed, taking space.
But it's in the morning, the first one. All right,
Oh,
tell me
yeah.
what you're on.
I'm like, I'm downloading. I'm downloading.
But I think that's okay though.
Yeah,
That's when you ask the check-in.
right.
And the thing that I love about some of our check-ins is that it's like, go when you're ready. So even as you're listening to everybody else go, it's like, I'm gonna go last because I still have to download.
I actually did that.
I'm still,
Yeah.
my legs still hurt from walking up, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Even like a minute in silence
Yeah.
after everyone's
Yes.
gone.
Maybe somebody will give me an idea of something to say, because I have nothing right now. You know what I'm saying? So,
I had a great experience where someone said pass.
really?
And I was like, wait, you can pass? So that's another thing, like, anything that you're doing, and I think the hybrid to coming to reality too, like, it's just a very different emotional response, and it's, but yeah, say pass, it's possible.
Yeah.
I actually did it.
Because I'm a people person, right? And so I was been fully remote for like a really long time. And then they switched me to a new team, was like, you have to come in twice a week or 4 times a paper. And I was like, I can't do that. Like, I'm gonna have to quit. Well, I'm telling her, this many times. But it's like, and I've been on this routine for a month and I still haven't been involved because I didn't leave. Oh my God. I do not want to do an hour and a half to work. Do you know how much time that is? That's such not much time. Time blocking 3 hours? I'm not doing that. To do what?
That should never get back.
Like, I'm speech working. I'm right. Where do you work? So I live in Baltimore, but I work in DC.
Yeah, gosh, get
And
that.
so even going in, I'm also so even in my mind, I'm like, what will I be doing differently? Because my team is in all the different buildings, and they're all even, and no one's in the office necessarily on the day.
How would you do though?
Well, because someone's looking for you to make sure that you're there. I'm like, I'm not gonna be any more productive sitting in that office than I will be sitting in my desk. So I'm also at a different place in my life where I'm looking at productivity, the time I'm doing.
Yeah.
What can I do at the same time? Because I'll listen to something and work at the same time because you know what I'm saying? That's
Less
hard.
becomes less productive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every hour. So someone was like, we listen to books. I listen to books every day at home while I'm cooking or washing the dishes.
Yeah.
Now I'm driving. Like, this is not, I'm still true.
But you can't, because you're paying attention to the traffic, those that can't drive, and you hear a point, and it's like, hold on, do I want to rewind
The struggle of those things, like they don't even think about that when they're so focused on, well, this is what you got.
What do you think?
Do they care? I don't think they care. Why do they care?
First off, I don't take care.
I think that's a great point, it was
Yeah,
the
you have a
rest
point, and
Yeah.
then
It's
you have 10 more minutes. I think it's good, it's going well, it's going well. It's going well. Yeah. One point I need, and then we're gonna just like have a very important question, because I think that it's about trust. There's a lot of problems that we saw. It's about like, the challenges, the accommodation.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about the culture of trust a little bit. So I think you had a point.
I just wanted to say, I think it's important to be honest about the struggle. I think now we're at a place where we understand what code switching is and we understand how insane traffic is. And especially I was thinking back to when I worked there, they implemented that rule and the whole area is like other pharmaceutical companies. And so every other pharmaceutical, they also implemented that rule. And I don't know what board meeting they had, but I think it was to your point about, was it part of the reason they took the offer? I think they all kind of agreed that they were all gonna have that rule, so one company wasn't necessarily more enticing. Interesting.
Competitive.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to be honest about that, because I was honest with my manager, and I think she was a realistic person. She's like, yeah, you don't need to be here, but I think other people maybe are under this guise that you can be more productive, or you're not more productive at home, and then the narrative stays the same because we're not being honest about the situation.
Yeah.
Also, that was something that was never thought of. I mean, everybody just did
Yes.
it, and then the community.
Right.
And
It
it's,
was fairly
yeah,
new.
and it's not until COVID happened that people really started thinking about
But
it.
that's your point.
Yeah.
COVID wasn't thought of.
Right.
Something
Happened.
happened.
Exactly. The beginning. Okay, this is the question. We have two questions. The first one is like the strategies that you will recommend, all of you, right, for organization to cultivate a culture of trust and collaboration in hybrid leadership settings, right? So because I remember that the first things you said about that was really a little bit you were uncomfortable about, it was like trust. You said they don't trust employees that work, from home. And yes, we may have some issues. We may see a lack of productivity.
Yeah.
That's real. So, what could be a strategy, right? As a leader, or we could recommend leaders, right? To end this problem.
I think
Yes.
actively
Yeah.
listening to your
Yeah.
and actioning it. For example, her case, commuting, like I could do whatever you want me to do, I can do it at home. Commuting is wasting time driving here when I could be actually performing. It's listening, but actioning
Yeah.
as a leader.
And knowing your team, like learning.
Relationship, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct, like,
So it's another dynamic. This is another dynamic.
But authentically getting to know them and trying to learn.
Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say, I'm gonna answer this question for you, I'm just gonna go because I want to support another class today. But one of the best ways I think to do that, if it's a big organization, even a small organization, check-ins.
Yes.
Check-ins,
Yes.
surveys and get that feedback to
Yeah.
drive the
Yeah,
data.
inquiry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But authentically and taking that to make productive change.
and rewards.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'd also say experimentation.
Celebration.
Yeah.
Like I tell my clients quite often, like, have enough flexibility that you can experiment.
Yeah.
And being like, okay, so yes, we might not be able to do
Come back at 3:00.
That's in order.
Right? Not people, okay? You know me, sister.
I know.
It's gonna be about a baby, so come back. Oh, I got a lot to say,
girl, I got a lot to say.
Yeah. But so like you being like, all right, let's try this one time. I will come in and let me collect and tell you then how much work I got done and what my impact was.
Right.
And you could be surprised. Or it could confirm that you're like, yeah, actually it serves you and your wallet better if I stay home. So like, you don't have that data. Right?
Dr. Stevens has a great point. She said about like, okay, really, we need to just love a worker or anyone to be more productive.
Yeah.
They have to enjoy what they are doing.
Yes.
And
It's still supported.
support it.
And
feel
recognize, and
So,
recognize, because one thing that happens in hybrid working or remote working is you don't have that like face-to-face stuff. And sometimes they forget you even exist.
Yeah.
Especially if you're not someone who's in regular meetings. And the only time you're in a meeting is just to talk about like the next thing and not to celebrate, not to reward people. And it actually, like in the studies that we did at Bridging Distance,
yes.
it was shown that indeed, people feel isolated and lonely because they're not being rewarded, not
Yeah.
recognized,
They're making
not
up.
included, right?
And another thing is providing support teams that provide great support.
Yes,
Well-being.
yes.
Part of that is knowing what support you need.
Right.
Don't just have something there and she's going through just, or he's going through just as much as what you're going through. Yeah, I hear you. No. I need you to understand.
Yeah.
Because this is what's going on, and I don't need you to now whisper to Barbara.
Come on.
Yeah, I just told you.
Whoa.
Right.
She's gonna go a whole nother.
Yeah.
You have my best interest in mind.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or it's just a job for you.
Right.
I got it. We got a young lady here who is like, what do I do, right?
Yeah.
How can I give you support when you're telling me my story and I'm still sitting in the same space,
Yeah.
right? How do I really provide support without bringing in mind and being jealous that now, you know, I can keep her stagnant because I stay stagnant and I'll throw me.
Right.
No, it needs to be selfless support, like support
Yes.
that actually reflects your needs and not me. So I can support you. Oh, great. I feel like I helped so much. Oh my gosh, I'm such a great helper. Or like I saved the day.
Right.
Those are all selfish helping,
Yeah.
right? Ineffective. But it's like, if I think supporting you, by the way, I need to be supported is the answer. You are in a team of one, right? Like,
Right.
you have to be like, what does support look like for you?
Right.
And I thought I supported you last
And
week. Was
without
that
judgment.
And what you said?
Without judgment.
Without
Right.
judgment.
Right.
I will hold your character in same regard next
Yeah.
week as I do right now. Like, it
Yes.
doesn't matter what you need.
And encouragement. Hey, remember we talked about you need because we need that in our workspaces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we feel like we have no one to talk to, so we stay stuck.
Yep.
Because the economy is holding us hostage.
The system will burn you out then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems that what I'm hearing is like, it's a double sword. We need to, it seems that the leaders, good leaders, right? They need to listen more, pay attention more, communicate more, and really like implement new relationship with their employees, right?
Yes.
And we hear also that from the perspective of employees, it's an accommodation and we can take advantage of it. We need to be more trustworthy, but at the same time, we need to be productive too. So it's like a win-win if we engage in another dynamic. So is there a necessity for another dynamic when we think about like hybrid work?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I can share this. So as you say that, Martin, as leaders, we need to stop doing self-work. Because
Yeah.
we will
Yeah.
then spill.
It leaks
On
out.
our
Yeah.
team and our systems break down.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we want? We want supportive leaders, but we also want our leaders to have support.
Yes.
Right? And how do we do that?
Yeah.
And then are we in the position to do that?
Right.
Okay, and what makes you an unregulated leader, right? When you think about hybrid leadership, what makes you an unregulated leader?
Will you define unregulated?
Well, how do you define that, Dr. Douglas?
So the reason that we even call it unregulated leadership, because leadership a lot of times is like a checkbox.
Yeah.
Right, like I make sure you come to work on time, I sign something that you give me.
Yeah.
People don't realize leadership is about developing others and motivating others, encouraging others,
Yeah.
right? And so, and encouraging in a way that they need it, right? Because the way you need to be motivated and encouraged is different than what I, right?
Right? In your team.
So the unregulated is like, there's no right way to
There's no
lead.
rule book.
Because you also have a leadership side, you also have a personality that I don't have. And so I have to lead from who I am, but also be who I am for you and for you and for you in
Yeah.
the sense that you need. So there's no one way
Right.
to lead. There's no right
There's no
way
regular-
to lead. When you think about all the classes that we have taken
Yeah.
on adaptive and all these different leadership styles. I mean, there's 1,500 leadership. We all don't have them all, right? And so you have to want to know who you are.
Yes.
You have to know who you're leading. And so there's no one leader. So that's why we say unregulated, because there's no one way to lead, and so we want to have those conversations, and then we get into international. How do we lead people that are not like us, that don't
Yes.
think like us, that don't come to
Yes.
culture? So the amount of ways that you can lead is like millions,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, that's what.
I was gonna say, on that point, the best thing that I've learned here, not that I didn't learn a lot of things, or did, was the cantor. Because it taught me how to seek me when I am seeking outside of me. So as I'm teaching and I'm leading, I gotta go back to who I am. Who are you?
Yeah, what are your needs in this moment? Yeah, like, I love that.
Reflection.
Yeah.
So when I think of unregulated leader, it's just who, and I go back to who am I to judge, right? But how do I stand, and why does everyone have to stand like that? Why can't I learn you
Yes.
without taking you home?
Come on.
Now I go. Now I don't want to take your trauma
Yeah.
on top of the generational that I already had while I'm trying to lead my team, right?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna hear you and be unbiased and unjudged, right? But how can I help you without now I'm driving home worrying about you?
Yeah.
Right.
And how do we make it safe?
Yes.
So when we ask that question, what makes you an unregulated leader? There's no one should ever ask that same question, because it's about who you are and how you show up that makes you that unregulated.
And what I thought was very powerful, what you said in the beginning, Dr. Douglas, was your shirt. Like, I love that, right? The message, right? Because I can't tell you about you, and I can't tell you everything in that book. I can tell you pieces from it because I read it, that was important to me. But I can tell you from my experience, right? And you can take it and learn from it, and then do your own. I love it.
Okay, so we're gonna just wrap up. You don't know what, but before we wrap up, we will invite Eileen, Marisol, to have a word.
I enjoyed the talk. It was great. It's not what I expected. It was
I wanted to validate some of the last points, because I was thinking as you guys were speaking about people who have led me, who I've appreciated in the past. And I think it's people who don't come from a place of pride. Like you said, to learn others, you have to communicate with others. It's people who are open to being managed up, which is like giving us feedback and being flexible with that, and not being rigid in the way that they think they should be, but rather taking the feedback of the people that they're leading, and also being rooted in who they are, but taking that feedback and becoming a better leader, and also developing the people you're leading, because eventually you're not going to be in that position anymore. So, yeah.
I love that. Thanks so much.